So Vedanta defines happy. Think of it this way. How do you define a calm lake? Absence of ripples.
Okay.
A calm lake is one that doesn't have any ripples on it. How do you define a calm mind?
A calm what?
Mind.
Mind?
It's one that doesn't have any ripples on it. So what are, or agitations?
Right.
Okay, so what are the agitations in the mind? Where do they come from?
Desires and desires.
Unfulfilled desires, unmet expectations.
Yeah.
So our mind is agitated when the world does not meet our expectations, and when the desires remain unfulfilled. So happiness is the absence of mental agitations. Permanent happiness is the permanent cessation of mental agitations. So we can achieve temporary happiness. So we have a ripple set up in the mind. I want a pay rise, pay rise, pay rise, pay rise, pay rise. It's constantly frustrating me. So what do? I go to my job and I say, look at all the good work that I've done. And look at how well I've done it, and all the people that I've helped. I need a pay rise. And the boss says, you're absolutely right, so she gives me a pay rise. I get a temporary cessation of those mental agitations. Right on. Excellent. After 6 months, 12 months, it comes back. Yep. Right? So the temporary cessation of agitation we can achieve through contacting the world. But that's not what you'd call genuine happiness. Anything genuine is not dependent upon external circumstances for its existence. If something's genuine, it has its own intrinsic reality. We talk about true love. What is true love? True love that does not change depending upon circumstances. So true happiness doesn't change depending upon circumstances. So the definition of happiness then is the absence of agitations. The process by which we gain genuine happiness then is the removal of the cause of those mental agitations. The mental agitations are caused by egocentric desires and attachments. So anything that we do to remove our desires and attachments, removes the agitations, brings us genuine peace. As a simple example, a man is addicted to cigarettes. So when he's not in the presence of cigarettes, there's a mental agitation. So how does he quell those agitations? He has a cigarette. And then another one, and a little while later, another one, and another one. The permanent way to gain mental peace with regards to cigarettes is to quit the habit. If he quits the habit, he destroys the desire, he uproots it entirely. Then the mental agitation of go have a cigarette, it doesn't arise in the mind. That particular agitation is completely absent now. So now imagine doing the same thing with all of the desires for material wealth, physical experiences, relationships, knowledge, moral cleanliness, etc. All of these desires we have, clip them all, and then what happens? Phew. Calm lake. Now it's a long-term process. That degree of all, reduction of all desires and expectations, but it doesn't matter that it's a long-term process, because anything we do along the way in that direction is giving us a commensurate degree of mental peace. Little by little by little, by degrees, we're becoming more and more calm. So there's two things. One is to know, first of all, to recognize that the cause of agitation is always internal. It's the first thing to recognize. But there are going to be external triggers. So we've got to differentiate between a trigger and a cause. So I'm agitated when I get into traffic. The tendency for me is to say that the cause is the traffic. No. The cause is my expectation of free-flowing freeway. The trigger, the external impingement, is gridlock. So when you understand what the triggers are, then you can intelligently reduce the triggers in the environment to the extent that you can. Now, to an extent, you're not going to be able to. You have to drive to work. Work is 25 miles away. You can't take You can't walk, you can't get on your bike. So you have to drive. So you know that to an extent you're going to be in traffic. The first thing to do is where you intelligently reduce the triggers. Exactly the example that you gave. If you're trying to quit smoking, don't have cigarettes hanging around. The other way is to make a correct assessment of your environment. Okay, I have to get in the car 10 times a week to work, from work. I know I have to. What's the traffic like in my city? The first 6 miles it's great, the next 15 miles it's terrible, and the last 10 miles it's okay. So you make that correct assessment and you know what to expect from your environment. The moment you have a correct understanding of what your environment is, you won't expect it to be any different. And so what you're doing is you are preparing the mind for the inevitable. Just as we say, don't cry over spilled milk, that's maintaining a sense of mental peace because when remedies are passed, the griefs are ended. And what's done is done, it cannot be changed. You adopt the same perspective from before the event happens. What will happen, and I know what it will be traffic. And so you prepare yourself in that way. So you make a correct assessment of the environment as a way of managing expectations so you're not agitated, and where you can rearrange the environment in an intelligent way.